Respect, attorney, permission, and silence.
Yes. So just to break it down real quick, I created T.R.A.P.S about 6-7 years ago. And the purpose for T.R.A.P.S is an acronym for your constitutional rights. And at the time I was a public defender and I was representing children. And I realized they kept getting arrested because they didn't know their legal rights. So the best way for me to teach them was to create an acronym that they would remember. So T.R.A.P.S is T.R.A.P.S. T stands for don't get tricked. An officer can legally lie to you to obtain incriminating information. R stands for be respectful. Yes, sir, no, sir. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. A stands for you have the right to a free attorney. And if you cannot afford one, that's the purpose of a public defender. P stands for never give permission for an officer to search your house, car, or belongings. Say, I do not consent to this search. And last but not least, but also the most important, silence is golden. S stands for silence. Say, I wish to remain silent and I would like to speak to my attorney. So that's T.R.A.P.S because the legal system is a trap for the bad guys. But if you don't know your legal rights, you're going to fall into that trap.
Well, all right. So boom, welcome back to another episode of the Black Caliber Podcast. I'm here with our lovely guest,
Kaysia Earley, criminal defense attorney.
Otherwise known as the T.R.A.P.S lawyer.
Yes, definitely the T.R.A.P.S attorney.
Right. So would you like to talk about that, the T.R.A.P.S attorney? Because I already know your story.
So we'll backtrack. So I am a criminal defense attorney. 20 years ago, I was incarcerated, basically discounting shoes at my employer, and it was considered embezzlement. It was also a felony. So I was incarcerated, solitary confinement. I was also pregnant with my son.
Solitary.
Segue, he's in college now, full scholarship. But I was determined not to become not only a product of my bad choices, but a product of my environment. So years later, I go to law school, and now I am one of the top lawyers in the state of Florida, practicing criminal defense, civil rights, personal injury. So T.R.A.P.S, that's a whole different segue of me giving back to the community. Okay, you came prepared.
Right, so it's a trick.
Yes.
Respect, attorney, permission, and silence.
Yes, so just to break it down real quick, I created T.R.A.P.S about 6-7 years ago. And the purpose for T.R.A.P.S is an acronym for your constitutional rights. And at the time I was a public defender and I was representing children. And I realized they kept getting arrested because they didn't know their legal rights. So the best way for me to teach them was to create an acronym that they would remember. So T.R.A.P.S is T.R.A.P.S. T stands for don't get tricked. An officer can legally lie to you to obtain incriminating information. R stands for be respectful. Yes, sir, no, sir. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. A stands for you have the right to a free attorney. And if you cannot afford one, that's the purpose of a public defender. P stands for never give permission for an officer to search your house, car, or belongings. Say, I do not consent to this search. And last but not least, but also the most important, silence is golden. S stands for silence. Say, I wish to remain silent and I would like to speak to my attorney. So that's T.R.A.P.S because the legal system is a trap for the bad guys. But if you don't know your legal rights, you're going to fall into that trap. T.R.A.P.S attorney.
That was like a perfect commercial.
Wasn't it?
Two.
Product of Earley Law Firm. Earley Law Firm. I'm the creator, copywritten by me. Just put it in legal knowledge because, what good is it if I am knowledgeable of the law, but I'm not helping my community? I always tell people, we always see these mass shootings and excessive use of police force, and then we march, right? And then we go back to work. Mm-hmm. We have to do more than that. Instead of marching and then going back to work, how about you speak to your sons and your daughters about how to interact with law enforcement? Now, T.R.A.P.S is not going to prevent an arrest nor a death, but it can reduce the numbers of unlawful arrests, unlawful detention, because we have to fight back with power. Okay?
All right. So what was the process of becoming a lawyer?
Yeah.
And then a judge, especially starting you just got out, you said you're pregnant with your son.
Yeah. So after I got out of jail, I knew that I still wanted to be a lawyer. I'm the first person in my entire family to graduate from college, obtain a degree, and eventually go to law school. However, because I didn't have any mentors, I didn't know what to do. So for 7 years, I sat idle, and I was a paralegal because I figured, okay, I went to jail, I can't be a lawyer. And I held on to the promises of God. I rededicated my life back to the Lord when I was incarcerated. And my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, promised me, he said, if you rededicate your life back, you'll become a lawyer. So I went to law school. However, my law school warned me that if I go to law school, I may not be able to be sworn into the bar because of my past criminal history. But I relied on the promises of God. And obviously, you know how the story ends. When I went to the Florida bar, they told me that I had to interview them. They had to interview me rather for three hours to see if I was fit enough to be sworn in. Thankfully, they agreed, and the rest is history. I've been practicing law this September for 10 years. It was hard. And you also talked about running for judge. So last summer, I ran for judge. Although I lost by 320 votes, I gained so much experience in running for politics in the political arena. I gained so many connections. So it's not a loss per se. And I do have future political aspirations, and stay tuned.
So, especially being like a Black woman, what like hardships do you feel like you faced or even still face today?
First of all, being a lawyer is a white male-dominated profession. Black women make up 2.5% or 3% of the legal profession. So although I am an awarded attorney, top attorney, so many not guilty verdicts, sometimes when I walk in a court, people assume that I'm a clerk or a victim. They never assume that I'm a lawyer, no matter how well I'm dressed, because it's their ill preconceived notions of what a lawyer looks like. So my goal is to change the perception, because you can be beautiful and smart, and we need diversity on the bench. We need diversity for criminal defense attorneys, but we also need diversity for prosecutors, so we can even the scales of justice, because that's what that means. The law is supposed to be equal, right? You see the lady with the scales of justice, but it's not. It's not equal. We already know that. Black people are disproportionately arrested, convicted, and sentenced to jail amongst their white counterparts. So my goal is to not only change that pattern, but inspire hope. You can come from being incarcerated to becoming a top criminal defense attorney. Hard work, determination, and consistency.
All right. And so you mentioned you had like a son. So you're working to pass the bar, do all these things. So how did you balance like your home life and then this work life, which I know is a mess because law ain't no joke, that barbary.
Yeah. Well, I give credit to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I am a Christian, so I deeply hold my faith as priority in my life. The second person I give credit to is my lovely husband. He was with me during incarceration, and I actually have 4 children. So to have that support, there were times that he spoke life into me when I doubted myself. So it's always good to have a good support system. And for me, it was my Lord, it was my husband, and then my family. And that is what is going to propel me to my next level of success, because I'm constantly striving for greater, never going to stop.
Okay. So how did you end up getting connected with Rap Snacks, James Lindsay?
Okay. So as I stated, I am a criminal defense attorney, but it's a hobby of mine for journalism and to give back to the community. So I write various articles for various newspapers here in South Florida, and I connected with the marketing team here. I do plan on working with Rap Snacks so that we can promote T.R.A.P. snacks. See, Rap Snacks is very popular in the prison system. Believe it or not, it's part of their commissary. And I'm trying to educate inmates so that they won't become habitual offenders. And we're trying to rehabilitate their minds to show them that, there's more, you're more than your record. So James Lindsay, who is the founder of Rap Snacks, and Master P, who is one of the popular faces of Rap Snacks, in collaboration with them, we're trying to promote T.R.A.P.S.
Yeah, that's dope, right? And you saying that.
Forward thinking, right?
So other than that, what are your goals and plans? I know you mentioned some of them, but
well, definitely I have future political aspirations, not sure which avenue, but I know that I have a voice. I know that being in politics, there's a certain amount of power. And in the great words of Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. Come on. So there's so much that I want to do. I'm not counting myself out. one takeaway for your listeners is your network is your net worth. So you got that.
It's been a common theme.
Yeah, it's good to not only step outside of your comfort zone, but interact. Everywhere you go is a potential opportunity to connect. If you're in a restaurant and you see someone, say hello. How are you doing today? It's a way of meeting different people outside of the norm. We're all created individuals and we're all created with different ideas, and it's always good to talk. Wisdom and knowledge is power. So beyond political, I also want to give back to my community. I'll never stop volunteering, giving back, and educating the youth that's coming after us.
That's love. So, man, like some of my questions, you answering already.
Yeah,
man.
come on.
So, is there anything else that you would just want people to know about you, what you're doing, or to look out?
I'm in a lot right now. So I'm also a legal analyst for various legal shows, in addition to practicing law, being a mother, being a wife, political aspirations. One thing I want to tell your listeners is right now we're about to celebrate Martin Luther King's holiday. Do not use that as an off day. I mean, this man has given so much, ultimately his life for our freedom, for our comfort. So use that day for service. So even if you watch this afterwards, take a day out of your busy schedule for service. Be other people centered, give back, and make sure you're a blessing, because God blesses us to be a blessing.
Okay. And are there any books you're reading currently?
Yes. One of my favorite books, let me see if you can guess, I told you I was a Christian, is the Bible. And right now I'm in the book of Proverbs, and Proverbs is a book of wisdom. Without anything else, if you recall the story of Solomon, he asked God for wisdom, but the Lord blessed him with wisdom and wealth. So my desire from God is to give me wisdom to defend my clients, wisdom to fight for their freedom, wisdom to connect with the right spirit and the right people, to give me a discerning spirit. So that's one of my books. I'm also reading The 5 Love Languages. I can't remember the author of that book right now, but being married for 19 years, it's a blessing. So that's another book that I'm reading in the midst of me doing everything else that I am. So reading is fundamental.
Absolutely. All right. So with that, can I just get you to say, this has been the Black Caliber Podcast. The Black Caliber Podcast.
Well, this has been a Black Caliber Podcast. Thank you for watching, and make sure you stay tuned and locked in.